Hello and welcome to watching this video. In this course, I want to teach you how you can working with shortcut keys in Adobe After Effects. If you learn how use these shortcut keys, you will at least 10 more times faster to working with Adobe After Effects. Let's go to watching this tutorial. When you press Ctrl I, you can open import file window. Ctrl I. Next, when you press Ctrl N, you can create new composition. As you can see, composition setting it will show. Next, when you press Alt and backslash, you can create a composition from your footage. As you can see, it will be like this. Next is Ctrl K. When you press Ctrl and K, you can see composition setting. Composition setting window will be appear. Now when you press Ctrl and Shift and X, you can trim your composition. As you can see, when you limit this work area and press that, now your composition is trimmed. Next is Ctrl and Shift and C. When you press that, you can create pre-composition. When you select all layers and after that, press Ctrl Shift C. As you can see, it creates pre-composition. Next is Spacebar. When you press Spacebar, you can play preview in After Effects like this. Next is decimal point. When you press that, just you can hear the voice of that composition like this. Next is home. When you press home key, you can change position in this indicator to first of composition. And next is end. When you press end key, you can change your indicator to end of your composition. Next is I. When you select a layer and after that press I, your indicator change and will be go to first of your layer. Next is O. When you select your layer and after that press O, your indicator will be go to end of your layer like this. I and O. Next is J. When you have many keyframe and you want go to previous keyframe, as you can see, for example here, when you press J, as you can see, change indicator to previous keyframe. Next is K. With K, you can go to next keyframe and you can change indicator, as you can see, in next keyframe. Previous with J and next with K. Next is page up. When you press page up, your indicator change and go to previous frame like this. Change and go to previous frame. You can see better here. As you can see, like this. And next is page down. When you press page down, your indicator go to next frame. As you can see, that step is one frame by one frame. Page up and page down. And the next in Shift Page Up, you can press Shift Page Down. With these two keys, you can change your indicator and change it to 10 frame. 10 frame next and 10 frame previous. Next is comma. With this key you can, when you press that, you can zoom out your composition like this. Next is period or dot. When you press this button, you can zoom in your composition view. Next is dash. With dash, you can zoom in your timeline view like this. Next is equal. With this button, you can zoom out your timeline like this. Okay, next is Alt and quotation. With this button, you can enable this grid, or if you press again, you can disable that. Okay, next is a Ctrl R. With this button, you can show ruler like this. Ctrl R, show ruler. Okay. Next is a Ctrl Shift H. With this, you can enable show line of mask. Enable and disable. Now it's disabled, and again, if you press that, you can enable that line. Next is semicolon. With this, you can jump to maximum view in timeline like this. And again, when you press that, you can jump to minimum view of this timeline. Okay, next is Shift slash. With this button, you can fit your composition view with your window, as you can see like this. It fit to your screen like this. And next, double click in hand. For example, if you change position of this composition, for example, change it to here. Now double click in hand. As you can see, it change and show in center like this. Double click that. You can see it will like this. Next is Alt and left bracket. When you press this button, you can delete layer before this indicator like this. Delete before this layer. It's very good. Next is Alt and right bracket. When you press this button, you can delete layer after this indicator like this. Delete after this indicator. Next is Ctrl Shift D. With these buttons, you can split your layer. When you press that, as you can see, you can split that like this. Next is Ctrl Alt R. When you press these buttons, you can reverse your layer. This is original, for example. And now press your layer and press Ctrl Alt R. Now, when you play that, as you can see, your layer is inverse. Okay, next is Ctrl Alt Shift Y. When you press these buttons, As you can see, you can create null. Next is Ctrl Alt Y. When you press these buttons, you can create adjustment layer like this. Next is Ctrl Y. When you press Ctrl Y, you can create solid layer like this. Next is Ctrl Alt T. With this, you can add time remap to your layer like this. For add time remap. Next is Ctrl Alt V. When you copy your layer and want paste that exactly after your indicator. For example, here when you copy that and when you paste that, as you can see, it's paste from first of composition. But if you press Ctrl Alt V, as you can see, it pastes after this indicator. Next is Ctrl down arrow. When you select a layer, and now when you press Ctrl down arrow, as you can see, you can down, and with Ctrl up arrow, you can go to up layer like this. Next is Ctrl L. With Ctrl L, you can lock your layer like this. As you can see, your layer is locked. And when you press Ctrl Shift L, you can drop that lock for a layer or all. Next is Ctrl Shift T. When you press that, first select your layer, and when you press that, as you can see, Effect Controls panel will be shown. Again, when you press that, you'll see that. Okay, next is Ctrl Shift V. When you press that, you can just show this selected layer. Other layer will be high. When you press that, and now, as you can see, just this layer is showing. Okay. Next is Ctrl Shift E. When you press Ctrl Shift E, you can delete all effect in this layer like this. Very good. Next is 4. When you press 4, you can show or hide this blend mode here. As you can see, show or you can hide it. Okay. Next is Shift F4. When you press that, you can show or hide parent option. As you can see, parent is show and hide, show and hide. Okay. Next is Numeric Keypad. When you press, for example, 1, 2, 3, you can select your layer. For example, now you can, for example, 12 or 34, you can 14, you can select your number of your layer that you want to select that. Okay, next is left bracket. With left bracket, you can change your layer start. For example, here when you press this layer and press the left bracket, as you can see, start of this layer change from a start of indicator. Okay, next is right bracket. With right bracket, you can change end of this layer. For example, here when you press that, as you can see, end of layer, it will change. Okay, next is shift equal. When you press that, you can change blending mode of this layer. Or shift and dash. If you press that, you can change in inverse in blending mode. Okay. Okay, next, when you select your layer, now press A. You can see just anchor point is appear. Now, when you select your layer and press L, you can see audio level. If your layer have audio, you can see audio level when you press L. If your video have a mask, when you select that and press F, you can see mask feeder. When you press F, you can see mask feeder. Now select your layer. When you press M, you can see mask path. When you press T, you can see opacity. And now, when you press double T, you can see mask opacity. When you press P, you can see position. When you press R, you can see rotation. When you press S, you can see scale. When you press E, you can see effects properties. For example, here shine and HDR compounder. When you press U, you can see just properties that have keyframes. For example, here just in all properties in this layer, just scale have a keyframe, and when you press U, you can see just this property. Next is Alt Shift and property shortcut. For example, when you press Alt Shift and T, you can insert keyframe in opacity. Like this. As you can see, it creates this keyframe. And for example, if you press Alt Shift and P, for example, you can insert keyframe in position. You can do this in scale and other property shortcut I was teach that. Okay, next is Alt and left arrow. With this item, you can move your keyframe in left frame by frame in one frame. And if you press Alt and right arrow, you can move your keyframe in right, like this, one frame by one frame. And next is Alt and Shift and left arrow, or Alt Shift and right arrow. With this item, you can move your keyframe in 10 frames. You can move 10 frames, right and left, like this. For example, here in right, now in left. Very good. Next is F9. With this, you can change your keyframe. Select that, and when you press F9, you can change it to Easy Ease. Next is Shift F9. First, when you select your keyframe and after that press Shift F9, you can change your keyframe to Easy Ease In. And the next is Shift Ctrl F9. When you press that, you can change your keyframe to Easy Ease Out. Like this. Next is Ctrl Shift Alt C. With this, you can create new camera. When you press that, Ctrl Alt Shift C. As you can see, it creates new camera layer. Okay. Next is F. When you press F, for example here, it changed point of interest, your camera, and change it to your 3D layer, like this. Or if you select another 3D layer and press F, as you can see, point of interest is changed. Okay, next is Ctrl Shift F. When you press that, as you can see, that point of interest camera changed to Alt 3D. Next is Ctrl Shift Alt L. With this, you can create a new light layer, like this. Next is Alt Shift C. When you press that, you can turn on or turn off shadow, like this. Now is turn off, now is turn on. Okay, next is Ctrl Alt Shift T. When you press that, you can create new text layer. Next is Ctrl Alt Shift dot or Ctrl Alt Shift comma. When you press that, you can first, when you highlight your text, you can change size. As you can see, little or big. Next is Ctrl G or Ctrl Shift G. With these two items, you can group your shape. For example, here shape items. If you select that and press Ctrl G, you can change it to group. And if you press Ctrl Shift G, as you can see, you can ungroup that. Okay, next is Ctrl Shift N. With this, you can create a new mask in your layer. When you press that, as you can see, it will be like this. Okay, next is Alt click mask. When you create a mask, and if you want change all points of mask, you can press Alt, and after that, as you can see, when you click, you can change all point mask. Okay, next is star. With star, you can create a mark like this. Again, a star. As you can see, you can create a mark. Okay, when you press Alt mark, you can Alt star, you can create mark with detail. When you press that, as you can see here, you can input your details. Next is Shift and from 0 to 9 on main keyboard. When you press that, as you can see, for example, 1, 2, 3, 2 and 3, you can create mark with number. Okay, and in final, when you want to render your project, when you press B, it limits work area from left, and for example here, when you press N, you can, as you can see, limit work area from right. And in final, when you press Ctrl M, you can, as you can see, you can render your project. If you enjoyed to watch this tutorial, please like and share this tutorial. Thank you for watching this video, and goodbye.